I just want to thank you for coming, everyone. Senator Curran and our Assistant Director, Michael Negrin, here from the DCEO. Glad to see that you're here too. And everybody joining us live or watching on our social media, we're happy to have you. So let's put this into a little bit of context. We've come a very long way in the last 4 months. It seems like a year, but it's only been 4 months. We've all learned about flattening the curve and about what we can do to protect each other and make it a safer place in Illinois. But our business community really needs our help. We all learned about trying to do the right things, and Illinois was the first state to achieve the federal government's recommendations for reopening, which we're really proud of. The COVID cases have dropped and they're slightly plateauing now. But we as senators, John Curran and other senators were involved during the time that we were waiting to go back to Springfield, working together with each other, with our Republican and Democratic colleagues in a true bipartisan way in moving forward. So we had virtual working groups. We came up with some creative solutions, but we need to do some more. And so we are here to listen. We're here. This COVID-19 has devastated owners, employees, their families, and it's not a partisan issue. It is a way that we need to step in to provide relief for our small business owners. So what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss what changes in phase 4, the state and federal programs that can help the small businesses, and what DCEO will give to help in an overview of these programs. So my goal is to support small businesses. These businesses have been devastated by this. And one way to do this is through providing grants. The Payroll Protection Program just does that, as well as so many other loans and other programs that I hope we're going to hear about today. So I just wanted to give a little context and thank people for being here. And I will put the ball in your court, John, if you want to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Senator Glowiak. Welcome, everyone. I'm very happy everyone was able to take the time to join us. I apologize, I'm not joining you via video for the first half, but I will be on video for the second half of this town hall presentation. I'm thrilled to be doing this with Senator Glowiak. We share our districts border each other, work in a very collaborative, bipartisan manner to represent you. And these are, as Senator Glowiak mentioned, these are very challenging times. You know, as we've gotten to phase 4, businesses have struggled mightily through this entire process. And while the state and the federal government has offered and put forward programs of relief, we're going to hear more about some of those programs because we have a representative from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity with us as well. We know that you still need more, and you need more help and less constraint, and we're here to listen to you as you've lived through this. And as we stand here currently in phase 4, but the specter of potentially more restrictions or less restrictions going forward, you know, as you look at it, what's critical to you to grow your business and keep it moving forward? So very excited to listen and to learn and ready to go forward. So we want to start the phase 4 presentation.
Yes. So do we have an overview of what phase 4 is going to look like? I think we have some slides that are we going to share at this point?
Yes, we are pulling them up right now.
So I believe we're going to be looking at what's going to reopen, how that looks. There are specific different restrictions for reopening and specific to each particular venue, whether you're a meeting room or a dining room or a daycare center, each one has its own restrictions and guidelines have been put forth for that as well. So we're looking at restricting the number of people, either 50% capacity for retail, or if it's a large, say, spectator sport, it would be maybe 20% of seating or of capacity. Day camps are going to be reopening. Gyms, Pilates, yoga, 50% of capacity. Salons, nail spas, 50% of capacity. So there are a lot of changes that are going on, and I think people are seeing it as they're going to their gyms or going out to dinner, what the restrictions are and the guidelines are. And the guidelines, of course, are that people are, we're requesting, actually kind of requiring that people wear face coverings, which I've read an awful lot about that lately, and I know there's a lot of controversy over that. But the scientists are telling us that face coverings are really, really the best way to prevent the spread from person to person. And so face coverings will be something that is going to be required as phase 4 as we reopen the economies. We also will, the guidelines require that there's more cleaning and that there is more social distancing. So there would be 6 feet between tables, and the capacities would be lower to prevent the spread as well. So in phase 4, the how do we move forward here? Well, what's reopening is, we talked a little bit about that, but we lived through the phase 1. Phase 2 was the flattening of the curve. Phase 3 is our recovery, and the for phase 4, of course, is how do we get forward beyond this? So once testing and tracing becomes more widely available, I think we'll be moving into phase 5, or a vaccine, or we eliminate new cases over a sustained period. So the problem is, right now, we're plateauing, but we're not going down. The caseload is not going down. So we're hoping that we don't have to move backward. We hope that we can continue to move forward as long as people are following these guidelines. And if anybody wants to jump in here and explain a little bit about this, the phase 4 changes, we're not going to be grouped at all with Chicago anymore in DuPage County. So DuPage County and Kane County will be together in a separate region, the Region 8. And these are the specific regions are by EMS regions. And these regions, we're hoping, will be, if we have to go backwards, we can do it on more of a granular level and look at things, specifically what's going on in these much larger region areas, much more ability to be flexible with different regions.
If I could jump in for a minute, I do want to say that, you know, this smaller regional approach, I think is going to be a real benefit. It really puts the onus on us in your region. You really control your own fate, and it shows flexibility on the governor's part as he and the Illinois Department of Public Health continue to address, you know, our response as a state to this pandemic. I think it also further illustrates that nothing is set in stone, and so as you're operating your businesses, you know, it's important to give feedback on what is working and what maybe is not working in the current guidance, especially in terms of your customers or the operation of your business or your employees, because we are likely, as Senator Glowiak said as she gave the phase 5 requirements, we are likely to be in phase 4 for quite a while. So, you know, you should not feel that this is in cement, and as you're operating your businesses, you're going to know best, in terms of a safe social distancing platform, what is working and maybe what could work better. So very important to pass that feedback along. So certainly ask you to do that.
Absolutely. As chair of the Senate Commerce Committee, I was able to bring local business concerns to the Capitol when we did go. And to further the recovery process, I joined other lawmakers and wrote the governor about the regulations at the time before his plans came out about the regulations existing for small businesses and how we need to allow the small businesses a little more leeway. So I communicated with the governor when the local governments became frustrated with the regulations. And then we helped communicate with the governor to facilitate that dialogue. And we're happy to do that with small businesses at any time. If anybody needs to talk, vent, explain their what problems they're having or what things that we can do to help in changing or looking at the regulations, we are happy to facilitate that dialogue with the governor's office and hope to amend some rules that we need to look at again. So feel free to call our offices and let us know what you're seeing, because it's the only way that we know what's going on out there. I'm trying to communicate often with local chambers of commerce and local businesses. And, I walk out my door and walk down the street and there are several people who own businesses and they are often sharing their feelings about what's going on right now and their frustrations. So I am able to help them communicate what they're seeing and try to help, to change some of the regulations if they're not regulations that are making sense for the small businesses. So it's one of the things that we can do, our office can do to help. And I'm sure John's office as well in his district can help to move us forward and be very sensitive to what's going on out there in the real world with businesses. So we don't want to talk about this. We really don't want to think about having to move backwards, because here it's been months and months of waiting to move forward. But there is in phase 4, there are ways where we could move backwards, and we've listed them here. If we have positivity rates or hospital admissions, or our hospital capacities are reduced, or if we have some significant outbreak in a specific area, that's when we might have to move back. And that's why it's better to have more regions, because then we can look at it really on a much more flexible level and a granular level to see what we can do to make quick changes in specific areas that might not affect the whole rest of other parts of the state. So as I said before, wearing a face covering and social distancing are key. They are the things that are helping. Being the only state, the first state that met the federal regulations for reopening, we want to continue to do well and to continue to be able to move forward, and we surely don't want to move back. So we're hoping that people will look at the guidelines and regulations and follow them and wear the mask and social distance and do what we can to wash our hands as well.
And if you have questions on the guidelines and specific interpretive questions, DCEO, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, is the right place to get answers. But if you have any, and they have a hotline, but if you have any or need any help with that, as Senator Glowiak said it, our offices are here to facilitate that communication and to help you in that process. Right.
And these slides do have links to a lot of information. I did go and click on all these links on all the slides and review them. And they are very specific on guidelines and very helpful in your business. If you're looking for any kind of guidance, that's the first place to go. And if you can't find the information, come to us. and we can help facilitate a communication with DCEO to try to help you understand whatever it is that you need help with. And now we've gotten to a slide having to do with small business loans that I'm hoping Michael can help us get through.
Hi, everybody. So I also have I have my own presentation in addition to this, but I'm happy to speak to some of these SBA programs. Can you go to the next slide? So there's a couple of programs that the SBA has available. The number one, it's important to know that the Paycheck Protection Program is still accepting applications. So that is probably the best place, the best available federal program right now, because it's there is a considerable amount of funding still left, and they have recently loosened restrictions so that more of those funds can be put. A certain amount, in order to get forgiveness, you still need to put 60% towards payroll, but it is down from the prior number, which I know is more restrictive, particularly for restaurants who had more fixed costs, and so that there's been some loosening there, as well as lengthening the period of time for which you could qualify for the forgiveness. So that was an important change made last month, and so the program is more appealing. There's another, what's on the slide here, the EIDL. This is a direct from SBA grant. So the PPP you get from banks, and so it could be your bank, but there's also other banks that are participating in the program. The EIDL is a direct to the SBA. There is no forgiveness on that side, but it is another source of capital, and it doesn't have the same payroll requirements as the PPP in order to get forgiveness. So it's another source of resources. Can you go to the next slide? So this we talked about, and so again, it's still available. So everybody should be taking a look. And then what's happening right now in Washington is that the Congress goes out of session in August. A new aid package is being negotiated right now. And so I know we are advocating, others are advocating for continuing to improve this program, as well as make other changes to the overall aid package, including we're very supportive of revenue replacement, which is something local governments across the state are hurting from, that the federal CARES Act money we have now can't be used to make up for the losses in sales tax and fuel tax and other types of taxes. We can't use it for that. We can only use it to reimburse costs. So that's another item that we're advocating for. So apply while you can. The deadline is listed there, but also stay tuned, because hopefully we'll be able to get some extensions and some additional resources to extend this program and make it more flexible for small businesses.
So I have a question here. So it says if you keep the employees on the payroll, how long would you keep the payroll, the employees on the payroll? Is that 6 months after, or?
No, it is. It is, I believe, a 16-week. And so the program, one of the issues with this program done federally is that it was really designed with. It's really designed with a vision that this would be a shorter crisis than it has been. And right. So what we're starting to see now is that businesses that got the PPP on the beginning end of at the beginning of the crisis are starting to reach the end of the forgiveness period, and some are turning around and laying off their staff. So that's one of the things we'd like to see changed in it, is to adjust this now that we see that. Although we probably could have seen it at the time, but this is what the Congress passed, that this is not a summer crisis. This is something that's going to be with us for a while, and the program needs to be more flexible.
Yeah, we thought it would be like 3 weeks, didn't we? 3-4 weeks, we'll be over.
Right. So this is a program, if you have existing SBA loans, that you can go and seek some relief on them. So this is if you're already in This is more applicable to if you've got a 7A loan from sometime in the last few years and you're still paying it back. The SBA has got some additional flexibility to work with you on renegotiating those terms. So the narrower universe of people, but this is something that's available now.
So the SBA is actually paying for the loans for 6 months? Is that what's happening?
Yes, it's just a way to relieve, if you're in a loan and you've got debt service and you've got all these other issues right now, the SBA part of the package included giving them some tools to do some debt relief for businesses. So again, it's a narrower universe. You already have to be in a SBA program to get this flexibility, but it is another tool for those businesses who were already in an SBA loan program prior to the COVID crisis. So if you want, I can then go into my presentation where I'll go over some of what the state's doing.
Yep.
And I can also touch upon Restore Illinois a little bit, if that's helpful. Just some of the, the new changes that the governor announced earlier this week. I can go into a little bit of detail on that before going into the assistance programs.
Sure.
All right. Can you maximize it just so that everybody sees it? And then you can go to okay, so it came down. I'll just start talking and maybe you can, Zach, if you can bring it back up. So the governor has taken a view of this as the public health, managing the public health crisis and restarting the economy have to go hand in hand. And so the Restore Illinois plan, you can go to the next slide. The Restore Illinois plan was based on this view that, and at the time when the plan was announced, there was a lot of debate over, well, is it going to move too slowly? We're looking at 28 days instead of 14 days, and the goal for the plan was to slow the rate of increase, to buy time so that we'd have hospital capacity, to buy time to invest in testing. Today we had our record high 43,000 tests were done over the last 24 hours, which is a significant increase from where we were even a month ago, and to invest in contact tracing. And so we've got north of 1,600 contact tracers. We're approaching half of where we need to be. And so our ability when there's an incident to follow the chain is significant. And the reason this is important is so that we can avoid what's happening in some of these other states that reopened so quickly and are now having to pull back. California, very early was aggressive in taking measures to try to slow the curve of increase by closing certain types of businesses and restricting activities. And then they very quickly reopened. And now the governor there is having to adopt a fairly broad-based blanket closure orders, which is exactly what we want to avoid. And so we took a more deliberate approach, and we've found some success, as the senators have both noted. And what we think that's given us the capacity to do is to take that more measured approach. And so we have the 11 regions that the senator showed earlier in the presentation, and then all of the measures that we can follow, all the measures that we can use are much more targeted. And so if the criteria are, if there is an increase in positivity, that's the percentage of those tests that are positive, 7 out of the preceding 10 days, and there's an increase in hospitalization for 7 out of the last 10 days in one of those regions, then we can start to take some measures, and those measures would be focused first on reducing capacity for indoor dining, potentially closing indoor bars, looking at sort of event size, whether it's taking it down from the 50, and then any steps beyond that would be tied to actual contact tracing. So if we see that certain types of businesses in an area are associated with those case increases, we can be much more narrow and focused on where we're seeing those cases. So I just want to highlight that because it's important. It is the payoff of all the hard work that everybody's been doing in terms of pulling back on business activity, in terms of mask wearing, social distance. The benefit of buying that time is that we can be more targeted and have these smaller regions and not have to do what even Michigan, which has also found early success, the governor there pulled back indoor dining. In Pennsylvania, again, a statewide approach. They've adopted statewide restrictions. In New York, the governor of the state pulled back before they opened up indoor dining. And we want to avoid having to do any statewide changes and be as targeted as we can. And the reason we can is because of the hard work that everybody did. And so we've got this additional testing capacity. We've got this additional tracing capacity. And so we can focus on those regions, those smaller regions in the original plan, which is 4. Now we've got 11. We can be much more targeted, and we're hopeful then we can avoid the kinds of rug pulling out from under business owners' feet that's happened in these other states that move too quickly. So I just wanted to highlight that. If you can go a couple slides to right after the business supports. So the next one over. Okay. So so we've got a number of initiatives that we've focused on. Can you go one back? This gives a full list. So throughout this crisis, in the early days, our department repurposed existing funds that we had available. So we searched under couches, we searched under tables. I mean, programs that weren't started, we try to repurpose those dollars and put them towards other initiatives. So one example is the $14 million hospitality grant program. There's about, I think, 17 winners in the 2 districts for both Senator Glowiak and Senator Curran in these districts, right? So we took old money, repurposed it for new programs, did the same thing with a downstate stabilization grant program, which is repurposed federal money, and did what we could to get money out the door. Then once the CARES Act passed, we were able to pass in the governor's and the General Assembly's recent budget what's called the BIG program. So it's the Business Interruption Grant Program. It's at least $540 million in grants that can go to businesses. Half have to go to child care providers because we know that that's an important part of letting people get back to work is ensuring our child care providers can continue to operate with the reduced capacity that they have to use for safety reasons. And then the other half are for businesses of all kinds. Now you can go to the next slide. In the last month, we launched the first wave of the BIG program. It was a $60 million wave of funds for restaurants, for gyms, for personal care businesses. And then we had some funds dedicated to those areas that were hit hard from property damage, from looting, following the recent civil unrest. That application closed, I think, more than a week ago. Those decisions will be made in the coming weeks, and so we're planning to get all those funds out the door by the end of July. But then coming up is the remaining 200+ million. We're working on those programs now to flesh them out, and those applications should open in August. And so now is a good time to talk about them so that folks can be, you go to our website, sign up to be on our list, be in touch to make sure that you're able to be ready to apply when those open up. And we're looking at a variety of different initiatives under that, just funds for any business to apply to, as well as more targeted supports for businesses that cannot operate until phase 5. So live performance venues, event spaces, those types of businesses, which are going to be struggling for quite some time. We're going to have some dedicated funds for those to try to ensure that we're not losing an important sector, right? The tourism is very important to the state. We are national leaders in performing arts and music and other types of arts. We don't want to lose that. So we're going to have funds to keep those sectors afloat, as well as funds available to other types of businesses, including there'll be more funds for restaurants. So just because we closed 2 waves doesn't mean there's not going to be more. And so those applications will be posted in August. And so be on the lookout and be sure to apply. And we're going to be working to get those resources out the door. It's federal money, so it has to be. The requirements behind it is that we're covering costs due to COVID-related either closures or loss of demand. So there'll be when you're applying, and if you win, we'll be working with you to make sure that the amounts are tied to. I've lost $15,000 this last month because I had to close my business, and then the next month demand was lower. We'll be working with you to make sure that it stands up to a year later when the federal government may be auditing all these funds. We want to make sure that we've got all the right documentation, but the funds are flexible. There's not going to be the same requirements as existed for, say, the Paycheck Protection Program. We're here to cover losses. We just those losses need to be provable losses.
Michael, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So the best way for any business owner or operator watching this to be informed of the application process being opened up would be signing up through a link on your website with an email, and then you provide email notification when the period opens up. Is that?
I think that's the best way. And of course, as we open up applications, we'll send them to members of the General Assembly for you to write to your own list as well. So
thank you.
We'll want to make sure that, and we have we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and every time we release new programs, we promote them on all of our social media platforms. So my advice is just sign up for everything. Sign up for your elected officials lists, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. That way you're getting hit multiple times, and you can see the progress as it's coming.
Thank you, Michael.
Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the highlight. What I'd call out and over the next few slides, and I'll go through these more quickly, is we also released $25 million in capital funds to help repair damages associated with the civil unrest. This is we're in the process of identifying a partner. So we'll have one or more organizations that are partners with us, and then businesses who've faced some property-related damages due to looting, starting in late May, early June. For those protests, can apply to either get work done if there's still damages, or if you paid for your own damages and they weren't covered by insurance, you can get reimbursed. And so this is for those, so this is a little narrower, but this is to help deal with the property damages that a lot of businesses faced due to the civil unrest. If you go to the next slide. This isn't, these districts are actually not within the area for this program. This was $25 million in funds from Rebuild Illinois that we pulled up for what we call the Fast Track Public Infrastructure Program. These are projects that could be started within 90 days. And so we received those applications from more than 100 different communities and are in the process of reviewing them, and we're expecting to get word out to communities over the next week or so. But the goal was do important infrastructure work, but also do it quickly so that people can get to work working on them. And so that was the intent for this project, for this funding pot. Can you go to the next? And so this is an important one. This is resources that are available for technical assistance. They can help you apply for federal programs. These are our small business development centers. In the 2 districts that are covered by our senators here, we have SBDCs at Joseph Business School and the College of DuPage. So we have small business development centers, as well as we have PTACs that help navigate the procurement process, as well as international trade centers. So for businesses that are looking to do exporting. So all located at these at Joseph's and at College of DuPage. and they can, they're up to speed on all our programs. We talk to them regularly. They get funds from the state and they get funds from the SBA. And they can help not only navigate federal programs and our programs, but they can also be a resource on developing a business plan, accessing other forms of financing. So it's a very good resource, and we encourage everybody to get to know your SBDC and at least have them available as a resource. You may not need them now, but you might need them later, and so it's worth just connecting with our SBDCs. And so this is a new portal that we launched to help job seekers connect with employers. It's called Get Hired, and it's a place where you can search job postings, as well as we've partnered with employers to do virtual job fairs, and so that's where you can get online and communicate with a business that's looking to hire. So it's a good resource for those who are who've been who've lost their job as part of the pandemic and are looking to get back into the workforce. It's a resource we put out there, and then as a part of it, recognizing that we are in a remote environment, we've developed a partnership with Coursera, where you can take free classes that can earn you certifications to help you get another job. So that's an important resource, and we encourage folks to check that out. And then we have a Tech Ready initiative where there's you can take computer science classes at a steep discount. So there's still a cost there, but as it be a remote computer science courses at a deep discount, and those are jobs that continue to be in demand. And so recognizing that in the climate we're in, we need to be able to bring training to people where they are, and right now it's safer to be at home, and so we wanted to make sure that there were training resources available to folks who want to upskill and qualify themselves for a different type of job.
There are some new apprenticeship programs. I saw that the governor signed that into law today, was it? Or yesterday?
Yeah, so we announced yesterday some grants that we awarded to expand different apprenticeship partners. And so we have two types of organizations. There's the intermediaries that design and develop training, and then we have these other partners who can help identify more workers who might be in communities that don't often serve as apprentices. And so we're expanding the network extending the ability of people to plug into apprenticeships. And so I'm happy we don't actually have the resource on these slides, but there's a website that we can send around so that folks can go and check it out and see what's close to you. And so if someone's interested in learning about an apprenticeship program, that website is the right place to go. But it's very important to the governor, so we're putting more resources into it. There's an apprenticeship tax credit that became available at the beginning of this year, and so that's a tax credit that can cover some of the costs for the employer to train an apprentice. So it's up to $3,500, and then there's an additional amount if you're in an underserved area. So it's an incentive for employers who want to explore apprenticeships, and apprenticeships in Illinois itself, but in other states that have tried them and invested in them. Apprenticeships are a lower cost way to get workers into a pipeline. They're good for the workers because they end up taking on less debt, they get a better job, and the experience has been that there's higher level of worker retention when someone's gone through an apprenticeship program. So the businesses that participate end up being very happy with it. It's just, making sure the resources are there at the state level so that we can educate both employers and potential workers about the benefits of apprenticeships, and then make sure that the funding is there to support that. And so that's what these grants are about as well, the tax credit and the grants. And then another resource that's coming down the line is the General Assembly last year passed the Illinois Works program, which created a new apprenticeship requirement for state capital projects. And so as we invest in all the different capital programs in the Rebuild Illinois plan, there'll be more apprentices that will have to work on those projects. And then we have some funds to help get folks into those jobs. So that's not available now, but in the coming years, apprenticeships will be a big part of all the capital work that the state of Illinois is doing. And that was one of the, didn't get as much coverage, but I think one of the there was a lot done in the last in the 2019 session by the senators and the rest of the General Assembly. And that was, I think, one of the more remarkable and potentially transformative initiatives is the Illinois Works program. And that's one that we, DCO is going to be administering.
Okay, thanks.
And so then just listed here are the ways to get in touch with us. And so at the top is our First Stop Business Hotline. So that's the place to go and to call if you have questions about the guidelines or really anything else that we work on it as a department. And then we also have a regional economic development team if you want to get in touch with us, and those contacts are listed there. And then I would, at the very bottom there, DCO COVID-19 resources, that's a good place to go for our website. And you can learn more about the big program and some of these, and you can find all the guidelines, for example. And so that would be a good website to go to see what resources we have, as well as just learn more about the department and what we do.
And if anyone has any trouble with that, you can always reach out to Senator Glowiak's office or my office, and we will get you all linked up with DCEO. It's a wonderful department, and they're tremendously responsive. So we've had a great working relationship with them, and so if you need any help, any assistance in that regard, please let Senator Glowiak or my office know.
Absolutely.
I think we have enough time for some questions here at the end. Is that correct,
I think
Senator?
so. I believe we do. We have a few minutes left, yes.
Well, Senator, your first question is from Mohammed in Bridgeview. And he says, as a small business owner who owns a seasonal business, he relies on income from the summer to survive. And he is wondering what is available for seasonal or small business owners as far as government support. That may also be a good question from Director Negrón as well.
Sure. So I'm happy to start off. So the paycheck, now the individual business owners, the specifics will matter, but the Paycheck Protection Program is open to seasonal types of work, and so I think that's a good first place to look because it is immediately available. And then the big program, as we finalize the details there, we will make it available to a variety of types of businesses, and I anticipate that seasonal types of work will be able to apply for that as well. But right now I would look at the Paycheck Protection Program because it's in the bill. There are specific provisions in there that require it to be available to seasonal businesses.
And Director, that runs through December 31st, correct? In terms of eligible expenses in the Paycheck Protection Program?
The Paycheck Protection Program, which is the federal program,
yeah.
that application is up until August 8th.
Right, but you can project out expenses through, or you can spend covering your business losses and payroll through December 31st, I believe.
For a 24-week period, yes, I think that's right. It's a 24-week forward look. So if you applied in March, then it'd be 24 weeks from that. So if you apply now, it goes into the next year. But those are you can project out 24 weeks, and then the forgiveness is tied to what if you meet the threshold for payroll, right? So 60% has to be payroll, and then you can get the whole thing forgiven. But if it's not that, then it's a loan that needs to be repaid.
And what's the percentage on that loan?
It
was low. I don't know off the top of my head.
It started out at, I believe, at 1%, and they did, and they've recently updated and also changed the term, but it is a low in the range of 1% loan.
Mm-hmm. And it has to be paid out in like 6 years, is it? Is that the term of the loan?
They're allowing it up to 6 years.
Yeah.
So, but you work that out with your actual lender.
With your lender. Mhm.
Yes.
Good. Did we have any other questions, Zach?
Those were all of our pre-submitted questions. Those were all of our pre-submitted questions. If anyone wanted to ask a question in the chat below, feel free to throw that in there. But yeah, so for the time being then, we can always answer questions over email or by contacting the district offices. So senators, if you would like to close.
So it's great to facilitate this dialogue. We all need to keep talking and communicating and helping our small businesses because they are the backbone of what's going on in the state of Illinois here. And they are a shining example of how strong we are because they continue. We don't want to lose our small businesses. We want to support them as much as we possibly can with whatever federal and state programs and changing regulations might help. Pushing off, required taxes or looking at trying to help rent or mortgage payments or, there's all kinds of regulatory relief that we've been looking at to help small businesses. And please call our office with any questions. We can help. Call the DCEO office. We are absolutely here to help and do whatever we can to keep everybody afloat and safe. And I do appreciate the dialogue and thank you everybody for being here and listening to us too. John, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
There
So
we
everyone
go.
listening to us live, thank you. If you're watching this on a replay and you have questions and didn't think you had an opportunity to submit, please, you can submit your questions through Senator Glowiak's office or my office, Senator John Curran, and we will get answers to you for any of your questions related to the information that was presented. I want to thank Senator Glowiak for hosting this. Greatly appreciate that. And also I want to thank Michael and all of DCEO for putting your presentation together and for all you do to support small businesses throughout our districts here and throughout the state. And I do also want to, mention a reminder, you also want to look locally as well. In our area, the counties, Cook and DuPage and Will have also been providing some additional relief and additional support, as well as the federal government and the state. So you want to keep your eyes out for all areas for potential support and future more support going out into the future. But thank you again for joining us, and please let us know how we can assist you. As Senator Glowiak Hilton mentioned, small business is the backbone of our economy. It is so critical in not only throughout the state, but especially here in Cook County and DuPage County and Will County. So please let us know how we can help and assist you as we get through this most challenging and difficult time. So everyone, be safe and take care. Thank you.
I wanted to also thank our staff members who have helped to put together these programs, these communicating with constituents, putting together the PowerPoints. And I also want to say happy birthday to Zach tonight because it's his birthday and he's our MC tonight. So I just wanted to say thanks for everybody in the staff too.
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.